So I took the invitation of the Delight conference to sort of try to think about what are enchanted objects up a level. So the title of my talk this afternoon is The Delightful City, or The Enchanted City. And I brought a lot of new things to show. I've been working on dissolving technology into objects, like the Lego Mindstorms toy, which I did in the 90s, Guitar Hero, ambient orbs. I don't know, did anyone have an ambient orb? I'll show you pictures of it later. But today I wanted to talk about sort of what this could mean at city scale. But first, by way of introduction, I wanted to show you my house and my lab at the Media Lab and some of these connected objects that I've been involved with. Enchanted objects are ordinary things that have the same functionality that they had before, except now they can talk. They're connected. These are ordinary things that have extraordinary capabilities.
When we're creating technology for the home, really we want to make something that's seamless and transparent, and that as opposed to having things sort of call out and draw your attention to it, make it a more ambient experience.
We'll just continue to behave with those everyday objects as we do in the world, and we can remain focused on connectivity between two people.
What we're seeing now is this proliferation of different devices that are, moving out from the cell phone and onto our bodies and into the world.
So in the middle of our living room is a coffee table that has Google Earth embedded in the coffee table. And I just found that having access to this amazing zoomable map completely changes how often we talk about travel and how often we talk about the world and how often we look up places that are mentioned. And it's nice to have this beautiful large reference object sitting in the middle of our living space. Our devices can be a lot simpler, and the interaction to them can be a lot simpler. The internet-connected umbrella can just be an umbrella that only shows whether it's going to rain. You don't need to tap on an icon or do anything that seems sort of artificial.
We come from a time in which we need to adapt to our homes and not the other way around. So what if our home could be a platform that we personalize and we customize? The key is, how do we create this ecosystem, these technologies that allow us to move from one experience to the other in the most seamless, most magical way.
Some people might think that a connected home is overwhelming, that there'll be so much information in the connected home that it's just a cacophonous environment and you wouldn't want to live there. But I think about how we decorate our homes today. We put photographs everywhere, we put paintings up, we put Post-it notes up. There's a lot of decoration and adornment in the home. And I think if enchanted objects can be designed in the right way, we're going to want hundreds of them around us.
I think what we're going to see is a new renaissance where designers as well as computer scientists are going to really make a really big impact in the type of technology that we see in the home.
The history of computers has mostly been about efficiency. I think one of the things that's changing is that enchanted objects can be about adding motion and add magic to the fabric of our everyday lives and experiences. How many people are interested in a Google Earth coffee table? Anyone? Yeah, it's pretty cool. When I was researching my book, Enchanted Objects, I organized this periodic table of enchanted things. And I tried to make this, I actually have posters if you want to email me and get a poster, they're free. So each color category hopes to sort of capture a human drive, a psychological drive that is something that we all hope for. The drive to be omniscient or to connect seamlessly with another person, telepathy, or safekeeping, or immortality, vitality, or teleportation, or human expression. But what happens when you zoom out from these connected objects that hope to satisfy these things to city scale? Well, let's free fall with me for a second here. Eden. It's a paradise. It's an enchanted garden without shame. The creation story in Jewish and Christian tradition offers a glimpse of how we might imagine to live in harmony with nature. Just look at all those friendly carnivores. Eve, stop, don't touch those apples, or talk to that snake. In 1515, Thomas More coined the term utopia. It's Greek for no place. His book described an imagined perfect place with social equality, peace, no economic disparity, essentially Norway. In the United States and Europe during the Second Great Awakening, which started in 1790, many religious groups formed utopian societies where faith could govern all aspects of a member's life. These utopian societies included the Shakers, known for the dance where they literally shook sin out of their bodies. In 19th century utopian communities flourished. The Amish, Brook Farm, a transcendentalist community around Boston, and the Oneida community strove for egalitarianism, isolation from technology, and either free love or celibacy, which didn't really ensure their longevity. I went to summer camp here in the mountains of North Carolina on the same site as the Black Mountain College, home to an extraordinary group of free thinkers from the 30s and 40s and 50s, like Buckminster Fuller, the painter Robert Motherwell, the musician John Cage, and the dancer Merce Cunningham. The group explored the avant-garde in music and architecture, design and dance, all on Lake Eden, where I learned to sail. Here's Buckminster Fuller in his Black Mountain studio playing with tensile structures. He believed in a type of technological utopianism embodied in his designs of affordable housing and cars built with the technology from the aircraft industry. Fortune magazine in July of 1932 featured a full spread about the Dymaxion home. Is anybody familiar with the Dymaxion car or the Dymaxion home? A couple people. He writes, the duraluminum mast contained all heating, plumbing, air conditioning, and is anchored to the ground. Cooking is enormously expedited, and the drudgery of dishwashing is canceled by a device which washes, rinses, and dries dishes as they are inserted. Laundry is handled in the same way. Articles being returned, washed, dried, and ready to wear in 3 minutes. That sounds like a smart home to me. So today, data is the new material, or exhaust, if you will, and it comes with and with it comes the promise of smart cities. We dream that connectivity will improve the livability, sustainability, and resilience of cities, a new utopia. But what specifically should we aspire to? I showed my son this presentation this morning, and his answer was floating. I want floating cities. I don't think utopias are possible, but it's worth a discussion when we're thinking about smart cities. Cities have always been a place where we use where our imaginations, hopes, and dreams live. But in the Industrial Revolution, it was hazardous to live there. Cars and highway networks facilitated the segregation of cities. Factories segregated from homes with white picket fences. Healthcare was centralized in hospitals. Shopping segregated into malls, and learning into schools. Today, we really value the opposite. We want to live where we work and shop where we learn and socialize. We want integration for the sake of creative collisions, serendipity, friction in the form of interactions, and a vital street life in a pattern language. Did anyone read A Pattern Language by Christopher Alexander? It's a book from the 70s. It's a wonderful book. Pattern number 9 is called scattered work. We call it fine-grained mixed-use space today. New tangible visualization tools like this Cityscope project out of my group at MIT help us understand and rezone and reprogram urban spaces using Legos and dynamic simulations that are projected on top. So this afternoon, I wanted to look at 10 facets of the city and consider how each one could be improved and start to create an enchanted city. So facet number 1 is how we get around, our dreams of future mobility systems. It's well understood that our fetishization, that's a good word that I wrote, of the auto as our primary means of mobility has made us fat, depressed, and socially isolated. This one runs on money and makes you fat. This one runs on fat and saves you money, is this stencil. I applaud the delightful bike sharing system in this city, and I'm now a member after this morning. At the Media Lab, we've been working on mobility systems somewhere between a car and a bike that blend autonomy with drivability, electric with human-powered. This one is rolling out in a little city or a country called Andorra, which is nestled in the mountains between Spain and France just this week. But our cities need physical reconfiguration to make biking preferable and safe. Watch this short video about how we should reconfigure intersections.
You can create an extra curb to connect the cycle lanes on both streets. It has the same radius as the existing curb, and cars should turn around the cycle path anyway. You can see there's now room for a protecting traffic island. When we open the curb to let cyclists go straight on, we see that we have created a cycle path on the junction itself without needing more space. There's room for this in every corner. To make things more clear for all road users, we could add some color, and at the place of crossing, some markings. Now we only have to find a new place for pedestrians to cross the street. For that, we can easily shift back the stopping line a bit, add a zebra crossing, and pedestrians have an even better place to cross the street. Now, how does this improve safety? A right-turning car has to stop here, while someone on a bike waits over here, in very clear view of the driver. A cyclist will be gone once the car arrives at the crossing place, but if they do meet there, eye contact is possible because both can look to the front.
Isn't that brilliant? Like just by some paint, you can totally change the safety and bikeability of a city. So the second shift in terms of, from my view of enchanted cities, is from McMansions and the exurbs to living centrally and affordably. We're working on another project at MIT with IKEA with technology from the Transformers to make houses morph to our current activities. How many things do you do in your home? Could a transformer tech change your space to adapt to your current activity? If the space hogs like beds, tables, couches, and treadmills disappear, maybe we can get by with much less space. This year, the City Home project was spun out as Ori Systems. It's a furniture dispenser that offers a walk-in closet, an efficient office, a fold-out bedroom, and the costs of transformable furniture are much, much less than the mortgage payments on a larger space. Now with connectivity in our houses will know how to respond and get permission for those who have access, and they can be much more dynamic. How many people have a smart lock? Anyone? I thought one of the most interesting things about August, this smart lock, was that it created an ecosystem just this year of other services. So now that a bit of your home's infrastructure is smart, now they can promote things like a laundry service, a dog walking service, and a butlering service, and get a piece of the action. The transformable city home that compresses our personal space motivates a new way to think about and improve public and common spaces. Connectivity can make these spaces safer, more animated, and more responsive. LumiMotion is a project at Philips that adjusts lighting based on the presence of people. It reduces light pollution and energy, but more importantly, it makes you feel seen and known and acknowledged by the city. This is what I think of as the Peter Pan had, in Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, sort of a little fairy that anticipates where you need to go and illuminates your path forward. Number 4 for me for the smart city is the sharing economy. With the densification of cities, there isn't space or the desire to stock an attic or basement with all of our stuff. Sharing services are flourishing, coordinated by the cloud. Toulouse, a guy named Toulouse, won the Nobel Prize in 2014 by characterizing the economies of multi-sided markets. And today, the top 7 unicorns with billion-dollar valuations are all in this set of multi-sided markets. This is a visualization of that, sort of like Scott Brinker's, except it's all about sharing economy services. I don't know how many you've subscribed to. I'm trying to sequentially try them all in my life. But let's decompose what makes all of these systems work. First, you have to have a system of trust and reputation, a two-sided market of sellers and buyers, a price-finding mechanism to automatically find the price of whatever you're buying or selling, an automated payment mechanism, and security that coordinates the physical transfer, and in some cases, automized insurance or financing plans. I've been making an extra $200 a day having other people use my car via Turo. Anybody else tried Turo? Yep. Are you making any money? No? Okay, heard of it. It's sort of like Avis or Hertz. So you'd use Turo and use somebody else's personal car rather than Avis or Hertz. I've been making $40 a day renting a spare bike on Spinlister, which is great for leasing out your bike. I'm excited by what all these sharing economy services could do to cities. Number 5, I think shopping will be very different in the future. For those few items that you do want to buy or lease, the traditional brick and mortar stores won't be the way that we discover and purchase. Instead, we're often inspired by and will purchase directly through the photos we share on social media. I'm looking for a wig with purple butterflies, just like this. I started a company about 3 years ago called Ditto that hopes to do exactly this. We look at social media photos and extract 7,000 brands from every photo. Actually, not every photo has 7,000 brands. We look for that. 1,000 objects, the context of use, smiles, and faces, and more. And we heat up a lot of Amazon cloud services to read and tag all of these Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest photos. Because social influence already happens through photos, like it or not, you inspire your friends through your photos. The difference is now AI makes the photos directly actionable. So these patches that are drawn over this photo were done with an algorithm, so it can find exactly what's in the photos. What if you could recognize what's in a photo automatically and then link those things to actions? Ditto something. So I believe that in hypertext made text clickable, computer vision will make photos or pieces of photos clickable. So you can see something, you can say, oh, learn more about that, or call that guy, or watch the replay of that, or connect with that guy, or donate to that cause, or browse those items. Computer vision gives us the technology to hyperlink photos, like we did in the 90s with hypertext. These systems will allow a direct link to Wikipedia, or Amazon, or OpenTable, or TripAdvisor, or StubHub, or YouTube, or more. This is the killer idea for Target. And we built an API that's available if you want to try it. Basically couples something in social media with something that's for sale. I've been interested in photography and its changing role in self-expression with life logging. In fact, I've been wearing a camera like this one that's been capturing people every 30 seconds with a photo. Here are a couple of flipbooks of my day. The movies reveal a digital portrait that contains a lot of information. Like, for example, I can see how much time I'm spending on screens versus with students. I was learning a card trick from a guy right there. You can see how often you snack. You can see how often you spend time indoors versus outdoors. All of these things are revealed through a little wearable that just has a camera. But you need computer vision to be useful. I saw this morning in the Wall Street Journal. I'm not kidding. Today, Snap, the company formerly known as Snapchat, announced these video capturing frames. Seriously, how many of you are going to wear those? And as miniaturization continues, just gesture at what you want. This iRing project is a Media Lab example of just this. I mean, obviously, it's not small enough to be on a ring, but just wait. You'll be able to point at something and see what it is, interrogate it, store a photo of it. OK, the next facet of the city is play. We all remember the snitch from Quidditch. The extension of quantified and connected sports means auto-steering everything to make sports and music accessible to much broader populations much later in life. We have this fantasy of jamming, but the lack of persistence to practice, or the peers with complementary instrument skills. New tools scaffold or gamify to make learning enjoyable at every step of the skill curve. My daughter definitely needs Cello Hero. I do too. This is a concept video that I just worked on about the future of play with Design Continuum. Look for how technology is embedded in soft materials like clothing and felt and involves 3D printing and uses projection in sort of a psychedelic way to animate and ordinary objects and spaces around this family. Fisher Price, so we had to have one of those in there. This is the psychedelic part. Is using the datum of the height of the person as a way into experiences or photos or memories. It's a little bit saccharine. I'm going to go on. Did I just destroy that for everybody? So let's talk about the 7th facet of the city. Infrastructure that supports our cities will become more transparent and dynamically priced, from energy to water to roads. I founded this company, Ambient Devices, about 15 years ago that made this orb that changes color to show any dynamic online information. So you could program it to show you what the weather is going to be tomorrow. It pulses if it's going to rain. If you have a kid who's asthmatic, it can show pollen count based on color, or whether there's too much wind or not enough wind to sail, or whether the fish are biting, or whether your garden needs watering. And the big insight from that object was people really loved the idea of glanceability. They loved the idea that you wouldn't have to put on your glasses in the morning in order to see something. You wouldn't have to go check an app in order to check your blood pressure levels or when the next bus is coming. It could be done in this sort of glanceable way. And the big lesson was that having this pervasive display was persuasive. It was a behavioral change instrument. And the company today is helping energy companies show you how much you're paying and how much you're using of electricity. And it's especially useful in markets where energy is being dynamically priced. So this is found to decrease people's energy consumption by a durable 20% over time. I think we're going to see more and more of this dynamic pricing going on with other services, like congestion pricing that sets a price to ensure a level of service. It's done in Singapore and Stockholm and London. In London, it costs £8 during rush hour, which reduces traffic by 90,000 vehicles every day and generates revenues of £150 million, which is spent on infrastructure improvements. Google is installing another utility, super fast Wi-Fi, over right now in New York City and many other markets. Obviously, they have an advertising-centric motivation to subsidize this for everyone. So energy, free roads, uncongested roads, not free roads, and Wi-Fi. What's the next public utility? I believe that coming out of every wall next to your clean power should be aeroponic juice. Aeroponics uses the same nutrients as soil, but without the dirt or water evaporation. And more importantly, It permits a reconfiguration and localization of food production without the 50% delivery waste. These are some photos of a company out of my group at the Media Lab called Sproutio. These are real time. The plants are actually growing that fast. Just kidding. So Sproutio and others are developing algorithms to exquisitely care for hundreds of types of produce, reducing a family's produce spend from $6,000 to less than $3,000 per year. It just launched this week on Kickstarter, and if you're interested, they don't have very many backers yet, but they have 26 days to go. So you can order Sproutio. It has a camera in the sort of tip of where the LEDs are, so it looks down at your produce and dynamically adjusts light and aeroponic juice spritzing and other things to exquisitely care for your produce. So you can, cook all of these things and avoid the wilting and loss that happens from field to store and store to fridge. So will these new types of food production systems spring up like Keurig machines in our kitchens and at work? How many do you find in this photo? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the ninth idea or facet, we've come a long way from cubicles. Workplaces now prioritize spaces for collaboration and conversation. Otherwise, we would and often do just work from home. This is a prototype for a table that I invented that promotes better collaboration. The concept video here we did for Salesforce. I read a book called Quiet, and the big idea that I took away from Quiet, anybody else read Quiet? Yes? You all know this then. Is that there are introverts in an organization and extroverts, and introverts have just as many good ideas as the extroverts. So if you could afford to, you'd have a facilitator in every meeting to draw out the introverts' ideas and suppress the extroverts. So we tried to embed the same sort of facilitator in the table itself. So there's a constellation of LEDs, sort of like a star pattern that just gradually fade up in front of the person or people who are talking. So over the course of 5 or 10 minutes, you can sort of see if there's dominating behavior or balanced behavior. And people really love it. That's the building of it. That's the sandwich. It's in a conference room at the Media Lab. We want to print more of them, so if anybody wants to try one for your organization. We've tuned the LEDs so that they're really subtle, both in terms of their brightness relative to the room and in terms of their onset. So they're really slow, so they're non-distracting. And maybe importantly for cities, especially when you think about connected cities, this is privacy by design, meaning the table doesn't know who's there, it doesn't know what you're talking about, it doesn't store whether your team is getting better at being balanced or whether your organization is getting better at being balanced. It's just immediate feedback at the moment, and there's no data that's saved. In fact, it's not even connected to the network. I think the 10th facet of the city is maybe the greatest challenge of them all. It's sort of what was talked about earlier this afternoon about changing minds or changing mindsets. It's changing what we desire. As any product designer will tell you, your product must be aspirational. Our product, the Enchanted City, needs to emotionally resonate today like this white picket fence resonated with my parents. We want urban density and walkability and diversity, and it can't be seen as a compromise, but instead the way we want to live. We don't want private swing sets in every backyard. We don't want to sit in traffic jams 70 minutes a day. We don't want to be sedentary, watching other people play basketball on TV. We don't want your 60-foot wall, Mr. Trump. I've showed you, yeah. I've showed you today 10 ideas for rethinking transportation and housing and sharing and shopping and sports and food and work. These ideas have the power to reconfigure urban and domestic spaces and land use. The result will be a more sustainable and social and healthy and human-scale city for all of us. And as the late Bill Mitchell from MIT said, and I would say to you, don't predict the future of cities, prototype it. Thank you. I'm interested in hearing your feedback and reactions, especially from this community. What's your utopia? Thank you very much. Thanks.